Thanks for joining our Watch and Learn today. I'm Johnny Barfuss, studio educator here at Handi Quilter.
I'm Kristina Whitney, another studio educator here at Handi Quilter.
Today we're talking loading odd shapes on your frame. So we get a lot of questions about this, like I have this odd shaped quilt, so like a double wedding ring. I'm not sure if Kayla can get in there yet, but the top of that double wedding ring, see how that edge is an odd shape? We're going to talk about things like that, right?
Yes, and going along with that, non-quilts, like odd things like, say, a jean jacket.
Okay, and that's what we're going to start with, right?
Yes, we're going to start with this jean jacket. So we posted a video a little while ago about doing some couching on a jean jacket, and there were lots of questions about how did you load that. So
and that was the jacket that wasn't for you, it was for someone else, right?
Yes, it was for my little tiny niece, because I'm not as tiny as that jacket was.
We all thought it was for her or her children or something. So.
No, it was for my cute little niece.
Okay,
And
so show us how you would do that. Well, we're going to show two ways, right?
we are going to show two ways. So I will show the hard way, the way that I did it, because I didn't have the stuff that I needed properly. And then Johnny, you want to show the second way?
Sure.
Okay, so for the first way, what I did is I did not have a backing fabric. So we're going to pretend like this backing's not here. And I just kind of took the jacket and I folded it over and tried to get as straight of a line as I could. So it wasn't perfect. And then I took this straight line along here and I attached that with my pins to my leader. So
hold on one second. Let's roll the frame back a little bit.
okay.
So they can see that in the frame. Better.
So again, pretend like this backing fabric does not exist.
Is that better? Okay.
Okay. And so I just pinned the jacket to my take-up leader. And I couldn't get all the way across, but I just did the best that I could. Do-do-do-do-do. We need some background music there, Johnny.
Oh, that's copyrighted.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So now I got the backing pinned on, and I've got this loose flappy section that I just kind of folded out of my way just to keep it nice and smooth in this section.
Nice.
So then I smoothed out the top, or the other half
The
of
other side.
the other side, and did the exact same thing where I folded it over, tried to get it as straight as I could, and then I took my other leader and I pinned it on to the leader. And you could do either way, the front leader, then the back leader, whichever you prefer. I'm going to actually put these pins up here using our fancy magnetic pin bowl.
We just want to create a nice flat surface to quilt along, right? And you did that one with Pro Stitcher, but someone can certainly just do a free motion design if they wanted.
Yes.
And then this is something also you could just do on your stationary machine. You wouldn't have to load it like this, obviously.
Stationary machine would actually be a lot easier.
It'd be super easy to do it that way. But this is if you have the long arm on a frame and you want to try that quilting on a garment.
Yep. So then I would just tighten up my leader, put just a little bit of tension on that jacket. I would use my side clamps and clamp it on. So it makes it like a hoop.
Exactly.
Yep. And then I would create my design in that space that I've created.
Very cool.
So it's not perfect.
Yeah.
But it works.
You're not going to do an edge to edge in that space on your jacket either, right?
Yeah, I just did like a
maybe you could,
smallish within my throat space.
Yeah. I think with this one it'd be interesting to do something on that space right there.
So add some color.
Yeah.
Get some sparkle in there.
Add some fun to that jacket. Okay, so I'm going to show the other way. So this one we heard of from Kay, one of our new educators, Kay Collins. And she, when she came to class here, a few weeks ago, she had this jacket that she had quilted on the back. I can't remember what it was. Had she put a piece of so she had a piece of a block or something that she had done, and then she put it on her long arm using a stabilizer such as this, And so if you had if you got a stabilizer, this one is just a sew in, mid weight. But I would just load this stabilizer to my leaders, just like I was loading a quilt. So I would just take that interfacing and cut a piece, load it on my leaders, just like I was loading the back of a quilt, and then you could just pin your garment, jean jacket, just to that, like similar to what Kristina's did, but just pin it right to that stabilizer, right?
So the interfacing you load as you're backing.
Yes.
And then you put this just on top.
Just do that on top, just like you were.
Yep, and you could just lay it on there. You could pin it in place. Just don't hit those pins when you're stitching.
Yep, be careful about that for sure.
Yeah. I think that the next time I do a project like this, I'm going to try it with the interfacing, now that there is some interfacing that I can use. So, yeah.
And I'd like to try, I've heard of the wash-away stabilizer. I haven't used it personally, but if anyone has, want to leave us a comment, tell us how it went. Oh, and post a picture, put a comment, put your picture in our comment section here on Facebook if you're watching it there. And we'd love to see your project that you've done on an odd shape like this. So we'd love to see that.
Yeah, I think the wash away would be great, because then you don't have to cut it out after you're done.
I know, we need to get some of that in, because I haven't ever done it before, used it.
I think that should be one of our next experiments.
Okay, next up.
We are going to do some odd shaped quilt tops.
Okay.
But we need to do a little prep and get your batting for you. So let's pull this up. Oh, sorry, just pulled it right out of your hand. So we've already got a backing loaded like we would for any of our quilts. We've got our batting just laying on there.
And we always recommend when you're loading to do a plumb line, right? So we're just going to do a quick plumb line along there.
So Johnny, what's the purpose of the plumb line?
The purpose of the plumb line is to start out with an even space. So a plumb line is used in carpentry. They'll like actually drop the thing down and they'll let it swing back and forth. And that's for in carpentry, so you start out your building or your project with a even straight line, a straight space.
Yeah.
What's the best way to say it?
I like to think of it as our foundation. We want to have a square quilt, except we're not going to have a square quilt with this one. But it gives you that straight line that is completely straight.
Yeah.
Most straight lines are completely straight, unless I'm free motion quilting.
We want a completely straight line.
Yes. And then that way, if we start with it straight, we have a better chance of ending with it straight.
Yes.
So that plumb line, some people think, oh, well, you're just basting the batting to the backing. That's not the purpose of that plumb line. The purpose is to get a nice straight line to load your quilt top up to, so that you have that foundation to start with.
Yeah, and I like that you said foundation, because that's a term that we always use in our tension conversations as well. We start with the tension, the bobbin, having a solid foundation to build everything else off of. So we want to have a strong, solid foundation for our quilt, right?
Correct.
This machine, how are we going to do it? What channel locks are we going to do?
We are going to use the electromagnetic channel locks.
Okay. And they're on this machine.
Yep.
And
I like to do my plumb line at least an inch down from my pins. I don't like to be anywhere near my pins when I'm doing this, because sometimes you don't have the pins completely spaced perfectly, and you don't want to risk any chance of hitting those pins.
I totally agree.
Have you ever hit those pins before?
No.
Me neither.
So
I don't want to.
I was doing a project last week with some thick batting, and I thought there might have been a pin in the quilt. So I don't know, but okay, I'm just gonna stitch this fast, so we might speed it up.
Okay.
All right, I finished with my plumb line there, and then I have this odd shaped quilt top. So this is just from extra blocks I had from a previous quilt that I brought in, sewed into a hexagon. I was trying to think of a cool way to add some other shapes, but I don't know. I couldn't think of anything on the fly. So We have a hexagon shape. So I have my plumb line there, and I'm just going to line the top of that up with that plumb line. And then, whoa. And then I would just do a basting stitch just right along the top of there. And I think I would just sew down each side as far as I could go my throat space, right? So I would just baste down the top, then the sides, and then same thing here, just baste down there, those sides, so that I had that loaded, whatever I could fit in my throat space, and then just let it hang over.
Yeah. Another.
Would you, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to add, another thing I might do is do like a really big basting stitch right down this middle section, just to make sure I keep those points out and in position, because the diagonal lines are the hard part.
Right.
So if you've got it tacked down there and up here, it'll be easier to do a stitch along here.
Yeah.
And you could do that with a ruler to hold the fabric in place.
Love it.
Or if you have Pro Stitcher, you could maybe use
diagonal move.
Diagonal move. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, so lots of options there.
So then I would just quilt it. I probably on something like this, I would advance it, and then, was that what you do too? That's something that small?
I think if I had it basted right here and up here and the sides, with
enough.
The size of this project, I would advance it and baste the entire
Baste
thing.
the whole thing down. Yeah. Okay. I don't do small quilts, you guys. I do jumbo quilts. So I've never done anything in this size, honestly. I think I will though, because I mean that'd be kind of a cool table topper, right?
I think it'd be really cool.
Or a pillow. Oh my gosh, you guys, I love pillows. Can you think of it? But
my brain is going, trying to figure out how to do that into a pillow. That's so cool.
A shape this size.
Yes.
Just put a backing on it. Oh yeah. Okay, you guys, watch for it. I'm gonna quilt it. I'm gonna make it into a pillow. That's a challenge to myself to finish something.
And you've got the full-size quilt in your living room.
Yeah, it's hanging in my living room right now.
So you could put this on the couch. Perfect.
I have a new dog who loves to chew quilts, you guys. It is super exciting.
Are you gritting your teeth right now as you're saying that?
Oh, he's so cute, but.
Okay, we've got another mini project here, but this can apply to any size quilt. So this is a double wedding ring where we've got the circular sides or the scallops. So for this one, you could use this original basting stitch right here, the plumb stitch, the plumb line, and line the edges up, which could work. Another thing that I like to do is, it's kind of hard because circular quilts tend to shift and they're not always straight. So I really want to get this quilt straight.
Right.
So what I would do is I would make another plumb line, or even actually just baste right through here. And I want to hit this intersection right here, and I'm going to adjust the fabric to make sure it is going completely straight right through there.
Oh, I love that.
So I get a straight line.
Yeah.
And then I could come back and stitch down this curve.
Is that how you did your double wedding ring that you just did?
Yes, and so I did a king size double wedding ring, and I really wanted to keep that one straight because my piecing wasn't perfect. So that's the technique that I used. So you want to pass that machine down to me real quick, and we'll actually stitch through this.
That's why we have the green thread on there. That's why I didn't stitch on this, because I didn't want green thread on it.
Okay, and we definitely have thread on there. Okay, so I'm starting at this corner point here. And I want to change down to a basting stitch. So I'm going to do just a 1 inch for this project.
Okay.
And then, Johnny, my hands are full. Can you flip on my channel lock?
Oh, yes.
Perfect. Okay, so as I'm stitching along, I can manipulate this fabric. Trying to make sure it's still laying nice and flat. Okay, so now I know that it is straight. So at this point, I'm going to bring up my bobbin thread. At this point, I would come back over here and I would use some scissors.
Oh, thanks.
Or not some scissors. These are called pins.
So you use a straight pin?
Yes, I'm going to pin this in place just to help hold it stable. And I could do a couple of them if I wanted. But notice I'm putting them far enough away from the edge of the quilt that I won't risk hitting them. Okay.
Is this how you did your king size quilt?
This is how I did the king size. So it went all the way across the frame. And again, I'm still on my basting stitch. I don't know if I got the right threads. And then I'm just using my hand very carefully away from the needle. And stitching along, staying about 1/4 of an inch away from the edge.
And this piecer, who is Kim, she did that stay stitch along the edge. I love that.
Yes, this is fabulous. It's staying really nicely there.
Yeah.
So this one I'm getting a little bit more fullness, so I'm just going to work that in.
That can't be the piecer's fault there for sure.
It definitely is not the piecer's fault because she does amazing piecing. Okay, at this point, I'm going to stop with my needle down. Oh, and I forgot to tell you guys how I pinned on the bottom. Okay, so the bottom of the quilt, again, is this weird shape, so I can't pin it onto the leader very easily. So I'm going to do similar to how I did this basting stitch across the top. I'm going to flip this over, bring up my leader here.
Okay.
And I would match my center point of my leader with the center point of my quilt. And I'm not going to worry about the flaps. I'm going for that center straight line. So I'm lining the edge of my leader up with the center points, those intersections.
Oh, nice.
That was a tough one. Okay, keeping everything straight. I'm trying not to stretch at all. There's my intersecting point, line up with the edge of my leader. And one more spot right there. Normally my last pin I would do pointing in. Let's put another pin in here. And then do the same thing coming across this side. So for a really small project, you wouldn't necessarily have to pin this part on.
Right.
But if you're doing a larger quilt, like the king size one that I did, you definitely would want to pin it in place. So I'm going to hold this up. Can you guys kind of see how the leader only goes through this line here? Okay, then we'll tighten that up. And we are loaded in clear view right now. So if anybody's concerned about which pole I'm using, that is why. Okay. That's a little too tight there. Okay. Okay. So it looks like I ripped out part of my plumb line there, or my straight line. So at this point, I would go ahead and stitch down this side. If I wanted to, as I'm advancing, make sure I'm keeping it straight, I would do another horizontal line through these center points.
Yeah.
And you can do that consistently as you're advancing to make sure that you're keeping it square that entire time.
Right. And what would you do for the sides? Would you do anything similar to the sides to make sure those are going down straight?
You could. One thing that I like to do is on my idle pole, I take a marker and whatever that measurement is on that side at the beginning, I put a mark on my pole back here. And then that way, as I'm advancing, I can try to make sure those sides are staying lined up.
Yeah. So she's pointing to the back of the idle bar that holds that fabric down. And you just use like a dry erase marker, right?
And then when I'm done with that quilt, it just wipes right off.
Nice.
And I like to use my centering tape along there. So it starts at 0, works out to 60 one direction, 60 the other way. And then that helps me to stay on the same number on both sides.
Nice.
So do you want me to go ahead and stitch these sides or
Yeah,
leave it as is?
please do.
How about I finish this side over here?
Yeah, do that.
Okay. So again, I could pin this into place to make sure it's exactly where I want it, avoiding any major puckering. You can manipulate the fabric. Don't get your fingers too close, and that's the end of my throat space. So I would do the basting in that throat space, and then do the quilting,
Nice.
advance the fabric,
So
do the same process.
we get that question often as well. So would you ever base the whole quilt down, then go back and quilt, or do you like to just do top to bottom, left to right? What's your preference?
It depends on the quilt.
Okay.
So, and how many thread colors I'm using.
Oh, right.
So if I'm using multiple thread colors, I will start with the thread color I want to use the most for. And I will stitch everything that I can in that particular throat space with that thread color.
Nice.
If I have large openings that aren't quilted, I will do some basting in that section. Then I'll advance, baste my sides, stitch whatever's in that color of thread, baste the empty sections, and I would just keep doing that throughout that quilt. When I get to the bottom of my quilt, change my thread to the next thread color and work my way back up.
Okay.
And I do advise pulling out the basting stitches
As you
inside of the quilt before you use that second color of thread. Because yesterday I spent the night trying to unpick basting stitches that I'd micro quilted over, and it's not fun.
Don't micro quilt over basting stitches, right?
No.
That's the message?
Yeah.
Okay, I want to answer one more question. So I've heard the question too, can I do this like what we're doing? Can I load just one big wide back and just load like multiple small projects on it? Is that legal?
Definitely.
Okay.
Yeah. There are no like set rules. Even with loading these odd shapes, there are no rules out there telling us how to do it.
Right.
This is stuff that we learn just from trial and error, finding ways that we can make things work. So I think that's my biggest challenge to people is to think outside of the box, think of ways that you can utilize the machine that you have and get these projects finished.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. Thanks so much for watching today. Oh, we want to talk about the quilt behind us. Sorry. This quilt is titled Matchmaker. It was a vintage top and quilted by Amy Van Gerp, one of our national educators. And the quilting on this is amazing. Kayla will get some good shots of that. And we are looking to the colors. It's so fun to look at each of these melon shapes and arcs are all different fabrics, all different colors, all different colorways, and a really interesting quilt to look at.
It reminds me of my grandma's quilts. And I'm even just looking at some of these fabrics and thinking, oh wait, that's in this other quilt that my grandma made. So it's a lot
Kristina's
of
grandma
fun.
was the queen of scraps, and now Kristina has become the queen of scraps herself. So, well, thank you so much for watching our Watch and Learn. We appreciate it. Be sure to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't already, and have fun quilting this week.